G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Today we're going to go through the Cronulla Sharks and their best 17 for 2023. A side that hasn't changed too much, a couple of experienced heads that have dropped out, so it probably won't be the longest episode we've done, but a bit to touch on with the Sharkies side. Now, the Sharks, I'm excited for them, but I'm more excited about... It feels like my young bloke's just finished school and he's come and joined me on the big stage. My 5'8", Matty the Waterboy, look at him.
It feels so weird being up here.
It feels weird having you here.
Like I'm so used to sitting back there. Like I sat up here and I'm like, this is where you guys sit every week. It's such a different view, even though I'm only 5 meters away. So it feels like, you know, when like a footy player signs with a new team and it's kind of weird seeing him in a different jersey. That's how I feel right now.
You feel like Adam Reynolds in a Broncos kit.
Well, I would say that's a downgrade. I think this is a bit of an upgrade, but yeah, it feels strange. But I'm a little bit nervous actually.
I reckon you're going to be bored up here. You're not going to have as much to do.
Yeah, I know. See, at least when I'm down there, like if I switch off, I can just go on Twitter or something. But
I love it.
I have to be on here.
All right, Sharkies. Obviously had an incredible season last year, did very well. Obviously, the finals didn't go as planned, 0-2 there. But the season as a whole, I think we look at the Sharks and we go, they improved out of sight, which they did. This is a team that had made the finals the last, 2 years in a row, I think it was, before this season, had they? Or they'd made it 2 out of 3 years anyway.
They didn't make it in 2021.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
They went 19 and 20, did they?
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they just missed out. Yeah, so 2021 they came 9th. And then from 2020 back they came 8th, 7th, 4th, 5th, Premiers, 6th.
Yeah, right.
So that last year was the first year they hadn't made the finals since the Asada shit.
I think this is what makes this team so incredible as well, that it's, there's not many guys left from that 2016 side. Obviously, Andrew Fafita, he left at the end of last season. You've still got Wade Graham there. Outside of him, he's the only one, isn't he, that's still in from that side?
I believe he is.
So to build themselves up to being a top 4 team once again with a completely new squad. The other thing I love about this Sharks team, Matty, is that a lot of them came through the Newtown Jet system that won a couple of years ago. You have a look at their starting side off the dome. The guys are in that side. Kennedy, Katoa, Mulatalo, Rudolph was in it. Hamlin-Uele was in it, I think. Like there's a Teague Wilton, Royce Hunt, these sort of guys.
Yeah. I was at that grand final, actually.
It was a cracker, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was that Burleigh they played?
Oh, that was the Intrust one. I wasn't at that one. That was the second Magulius one. I was at the one where they beat, I'm pretty sure it was... I think it was Western Suburbs Magpies.
Yeah, right.
And I know Magulius had that moment, but it was Will Kennedy who just killed it that day. He hadn't debuted for NRL yet, but fuck, he was,
such a good player, Will Kennedy.
I tell you what, that was great because if anyone's got a spare Sunday or whatever, go down to Henson Park and watch Newtown play and just either sit on the hill or sit in the stands. Man, they absolutely love it there. It's the best.
My little brother, he's playing Roosters SG ball, and their home ground is there. It's the fucking best.
Henson?
Yeah, it is the best. Old grandstand's mad, but up on the hill, and there's 200 metres of hill to sit on as well. It's mad.
Have you been to the beer food?
I haven't. It looks...
Neither.
I'm shocked you haven't.
Yeah, no, I really want to go. I've just never got around to it.
I thought you would have been a first-up starter.
Don't know why.
Can't win them all. All right, now when we talk about the Sharkies, I mean, mate, there's one name that really comes to mind, Nicho Hynes. For him to arrive at the Sharks last year after being, a versatile sort of utility outside back at the Melbourne Storm, to arrive at the Cronulla Sharks, become a halfback, I was so confident at the start of last season that the Sharkies would be making a call to a Mitchell Pearce or to a halfback somewhere. It seems like the most ridiculous thought process of all time in hindsight, because this guy absolutely killed it.
Well, in hindsight, yeah, but I think most people were kind of on the same page. I think I'd say it was probably Denon was one of the first to say, oh, maybe he could.
I thought he was mad.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people did. But how quickly we've forgotten about that, because it was just one of the most successful, most seamless masterstrokes we've seen. He won the Dally M.
With the most points ever.
We'll look back on that, and it will be one of the greatest stories ever, because 100%. He was a fullback. He was barely a first grade. Last year was his first full year of first grade. He won the Dally M. Crazy.
Yeah,
But we all
first full
forget-
season of fullback in a new position. I know people will be sitting home screaming at the screen. Yeah, he played halfback when he was in Queensland Cup 3 years ago. Not the same. It's you're comparing apples and oranges. I don't care what you fucking say. Incredible what Nicho Hynes did. Matty, let's get stuck into this Cronulla Sharks side. As I said, a lot of this team, especially in the back line, but all through it, they sort of picked themselves based off last year. There aren't too many changes at fullback. Will Kennedy. If it wasn't for Dylan Edwards, I think Will Kennedy would be the most underrated fullback by far and away over the last 3 years.
Yeah, he was a little bit injured at the back end of last year, and I think when he came back, he kind of wasn't, back to 100% confidence. But we all know what he can do. He was so good in 2021, and up until he got injured last year, was great as well. Will Kennedy's great, but there's a bit of competition for that fullback spot.
There is. Obviously, you've got young Cade Dykes, who's in the system. You've got Lockie Miller as well. Hearing rumours that Lockie Miller could end up at the Newcastle Knights, which I know we've spoken about this off camera. I think it's a win all round for everyone, isn't it?
Well, yeah, especially if the Sharks, because I don't know where I heard this, but I heard that the Dolphins offered Cade Dykes a fair whack, and he turned him down because he obviously envisions himself as the future Sharkies fullback. So if that's the way they're going to go, I just think it's a win for everyone if Lockie Miller goes to the Knights, because if they want to put Kalen at 6, they need to have a fullback, and there's no point being third string fullback for the Sharkies. So
it's crazy when you look at this Shark system and, Will Kennedy, he isn't an absolute superstar. He's a gun. But then you look at their New South Wales Cup team last year. They had Lockie Miller, they had Metcalf, and they had Dykes, who, you could see... Well, you will see Metcalf go to the Warriors, and you could see him solve numerous problems they have there. If you see Miller go to Newcastle, he'll solve a huge problem they have there. And, Dykes, he could be the future Sharks fullback, or if he was to go to the Dolphins, he could be their future fullback. So crazy to have a look through the stocks that the Sharkies had and the depth of this system.
it's funny, even a couple of years ago, remember when they set all those records in the 20s? And they had, I think it was Kyle Flanagan at halfback, Jamin Salmon, I'm pretty sure, was the 6.
I think Leacher was the 9.
I think it was Brayley.
I
think Brayley was the 9. And I'm pretty sure Metcalf was coming through as well. I think he might have been a year younger or something. But yeah, that Sharkies. And they had, I think Sherry was there as well. So
it would have been.
They were just unbelievable back then as well. So
crazy.
Sharkies.
Will Kennedy, he picks himself at fullback. I think the other thing about the fullback depth is, the next guy up now is Cade Dykes. I think the vast majority of rugby league fans wouldn't have known who Cade Dykes was at the start of last season.
No.
Probably not Miller either, to be fair. He had a bit of fanfare because he was coming from Union and whatnot, but depth incredible. And we have a look at the wingers. These two, we just said they got the most underrated fullback. Is this the most underrated wing pairing in the competition?
Ronaldo is the most underrated winger in the comp.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. And, a lot of people have been saying, how much he's improved just this year, which he has. It's a fair call, but I think he's just been tippity top for years.
Yeah.
For years now. He's one of those guys you'd love to have him in your team, because he's got a bit of cunt in him as well, which is
He's got a heap of cunt.
Which is great. But it's it's one of those things when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and you're just pissed off, but then they laugh at you and you get even more pissed off. That's Ronaldo Mortala. There's nothing more infuriating than, oh man, I love him so much.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out with me, he came to one of the bloke photo shoots a few weeks ago. I couldn't believe his body shape.
Yeah,
he's just all limbs.
Yeah,
He's
right. I don't think I've
arms
seen him in person.
He's a very strange sort of, and now that I see him in person, when you see him, get aerial like he did and some of the shit he does, it sort of makes a little bit more sense. I talk about this quite a bit, especially when we talk off season. He's a classic guy that I think he wouldn't be underappreciated or underrated if he got to play Origin.
Yeah,
everyone
100%.
would sit up and realise. Then I think he's a really good example. Mate, his other wing partner, I thought they missed him a lot when he was out last year.
100%.
Sione Katoa.
What did he do? He did his pec?
I think it was a pec, yeah.
Yeah, so he was out for 3 months. So that was really unfortunate for them.
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say one of the best finishers in rugby league. He is incredible.
Well, that's his nickname, the Big Sexy.
Yeah.
Because he makes the try sexy.
That's what you keep calling yourself up here. Then we move to the centres. Wow. Jesse Ramian, their right centre. He picks himself there. Obviously went up to the Newcastle Knights a couple of years ago, returned back to the Sharkies and has been, I want to say a new player, but he's just gone back to what he was at the Sharks back in the day. He just belongs there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I just think that Knights here was a bit of a blip. He's always been fantastic player, always been so strong. And yeah, here's another real shiny light from this year. And he doesn't get talked about a lot, does he, Jesse
Nope,
Ramian?
not at all.
I think he should, because like his strength is up there with the best of them.
Yeah, he's incredible. Left centre, mascot junior, Sivitalakai.
The thing is, if the Sharkies weren't so stacked in the forwards, this would be a contentious one.
Yes.
Because, yes, he killed it at centre last year. He was absolutely amazing. But, you know, he's a forward as well.
I think it's a matter of time till he shifts back into the back row.
Like, they've got, who do they have there? They got someone like Connor Tracy who could go there, but they've got enough in the forwards so far that at the moment, that I think keep him at centre this year. Yeah,
and I think with him, he's obviously re-signed for a couple of years the other day, which is great to see. And my worry, and I've been speaking about this for a few years on the podcast, that Sivitalakai needs to be in this team somewhere. But if you're going to play him at centre, it's a matter of time until defensively he gets caught out. He didn't at all last year. Never did. He was very, and you know, you obviously had that game against Manly where he exploded, and absolutely killed them, and then didn't score a try for 8 or 9 weeks. But Matty, we talk about it every week on Bloke. Running for 180, 200 metres every single week at centre is unheard of.
His numbers were still crazy.
Yeah,
like tries aside, that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, Sifa, one of the most damaging outside backs in the game, and he potentially is playing in his wrong position as well, which is crazy. I think as well, you got to remember that Talakai, he didn't start last season as a centre. He ended up there. So now he's going to have a full preseason as a centre, getting his body ready for that. I think he's a very scary prospect. The halves, they pick themselves. Moiser at 5'8". Similar to Kieran Foran, to see Moiser get through a whole season was unbelievable. I didn't expect it. I've always been a huge Matt Moylan fan, as you guys know, but I didn't think he'd be able to play as much footy as what he did last year, and I just think he played the perfect role. It was Nicho Hynes' team, and he just played a perfect complementary role there.
Well, pretty much all he's got to do is stay on the field this year.
Yeah.
As you say, compliment Nicho Hynes. It was just so great to see him on the field last year, not get injured, because it's just been so frustrating last few years, mostly frustrating for himself. Like, I'm sure he was absolutely kicking himself when he was in 2 weeks, out for 2. It was so good to see Matty Moylan because he's a freak. Yeah. He's an absolute gun. I remember back in his Penrith days, I think it was a game against the Raiders, and the Panthers went 100 metres in the last set to score, and he touched the ball every single play.
Yeah, that was in like Mudgee or Bathurst or something. Yeah.
Just a freak.
Yeah. And, you know, you got to remember, he was the Panthers captain when he was, I think, 22, 23. Something unbelievable. So, and, you know, I think Moiser, people look at him and, you know, he's a very laid-back sort of character. He looks like he doesn't care and whatnot. But, fuck, I think he's a real competitor. I love Moiser.
If you had that many hamstring injuries and then you have a whole year on the field last year, the rehab he must have done to get right, he cares.
Yeah, for sure.
He cares.
And I think you could see when Moiser came back last year, you know, before he'd played an extended period, you could see that he was a little bit nervous himself. Still, I think now, hopefully he's got the confidence of getting through a whole season. His body's backed him in finally. I think he could really explode this year. Nicho Hynes, I think this guy is so good that we sort of jumped straight to the conversation. Matty, can he go back-to-back Dally M's?
Of course he can.
Yeah, I reckon 100%. He'll be right up there.
Yeah, he's so complete. Just one of the most complete just obviously Cleary's tippity top when it comes to like complete halves at the moment. But fuck me, Nicho's right up there. He's incredible.
Yeah, and another guy that we add to the depth of the New South Wales Blues too, trying to fit all these guys into the team. And I'm nervous that Nicho Hynes, he could be the best player, or like one of the best players in rugby league, and not play Origin for the foreseeable future.
I thought it was pretty rough he didn't even make the Aussie squad.
Yep.
But it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Of everyone. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's weird. But it's hard. It's hard to talk about Origin, but you just feel like he needs to be there somewhere. But then, you know, he's not going to be utility because that's Jackie Wine's locking that one up. So,
and then you might have Matt Burton in front of him as well. He's already been in the system, so it's tough. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, mate, the other thing I love about this Shark side of that team, I don't think any of these guys are going to go and play Origin next year.
Let's have a look. Yeah, maybe not.
I genuinely don't think any of them will. I think it maybe has passed Dale a little bit. I think if they had a few injuries, they'd turn to Dale, but I don't think he'll be in the side.
And whilst Dale is just super important, and actually, I think there was a stat last year. There was some period when he was on the field. I think they conceded like so many less tries or something like that. They had like a win-loss ratio of something when he was on the field. But even if he does go missing, like you can put Cameron McGuinness there anyway.
Yeah,
and if he's the
100%.
only one that's gone, because Freddie loves Dale, but yeah, even if Dale is out for a week, Cam McGuinness
It's a
can
huge
slot in.
advantage to have, though, especially just to keep your spine together all year and to keep
Yeah.
the rest of the team massive. So that's our back line. Kennedy, Katoa, Talakai, Ramian, Mulatalo, Moisa, and Nicho Hynes. We'll get stuck into the engine room, the forward pack now. Up front, Toby Rudolph and Hamlin Uele. I think Rudolph, he really came of age last season. I was very impressed with him. Got a bit of larrikin about him and whatnot. But I thought last year was probably his best season he's played so far.
Yeah, I think both of them. They both kind of really improved last year. Man, Hamlin Uele got injured at the start of the year as well, didn't he?
He got injured in about round 8, and he was, at that point, he was their
killing it.
best player.
Yeah.
Not their best forward. I think he was their best player at that point. He was on fire.
Yeah, so we're not too sure when he's due back because he broke his leg in the World Cup. So assuming he's back for round 1, I don't know what the recovery time for a broken leg is. But hopefully he's there round 1 and gets like a full season in. I guess the disadvantage is he's not going to have a full preseason, which is unfortunate, but we know what he can do. He's been thereabouts for a couple of years. But yeah, he really exploded at the start of last year, and I think if we get a full season of Hamlin and ULA, the Sharks will be absolutely singing.
Yeah, and I mean, the beauty of this side, and we'll talk about it more as we go on, I mean, losing Hamlin ULA is a great player, but they can cover it.
Yeah,
I'm not overly stressed about the Sharks without him. They'll be much better when they get him back, but they can cover him.
I think as well, having Fafita and Tolman there the last couple of years would have helped, Rudolph, Hamlin ULA, Royce Hunt. So, yeah.
They're big losses. They are big losses.
They got a good forward pack, the Sharkies.
Unreal pack. Hooker, Blake Brayley.
Easy.
Yep, picks himself there. Had a tremendous season last year. The thing that I love about Blake Brayley, he's been good for a number of years.
Yep.
And then as soon as they signed young Beryl that we spoke, well, not young Beryl, I think he's 26, 27 years old. He came down from Queensland Cup. We got the Hooker of the Year. Might have even got Player of the Tournament. Got one of the two anyway, maybe both. He came down. He was tremendous. I had huge raps on him. He played for Newtown the entire season. Hasn't debuted yet simply because Blake Brayley forced himself to be picked week in, week out.
I think that was the best thing for all parties.
Yeah. I love when you see players respond to a challenge like that.
I love his name as well, Blake Brayley.
It's great.
And also,
it's very Cronulla.
Yeah, with the wine there.
Yeah.
And also, he's very good looking as well. Follow him on Instagram.
There is there's a younger Brayley coming through as well, another hooker.
What's his name? He's got a cool name as well, doesn't he?
I would assume so. I don't know though.
Starts with T? I think he's got a cool name.
I wouldn't shock
I'm
me.
gonna Google it.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a shocking looking bloke too. Let's move to the back row and Wade Graham. He picks himself out on the left edge. Taj, of course.
Taj.
Yeah. Double Y. Wade Graham, obviously aging, a tremendous player. We're hearing rumours that they might have a co-captaincy this year with Wade, so I would assume you're probably looking at your Dales, your Nicho Hynes, these sort of guys. But Wade Graham, he's been a tremendous player for a very long time. I think his days of 80-minute back rower are probably behind him. But he still offers so much. And I think Wade Graham now becomes even more important with Fafita and Tolman walking out the door.
I think you can kind of write off a bit of last year for Graham because you cast your mind back to the back end of the year before. He was out for the year, last few weeks with concussion. And I think he kind of had to really monitor himself in that preseason. Then, come round 1 or whenever he came back, like to come back from head knocks, you need to gain a lot of confidence.
Yep.
So I think we didn't see what we know Wade Graham is last year. And hopefully now that's all gone and we can see the best of him again because I want to see Wade Graham as that silky edge player like we know. I think it was a previous podcast. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was ball playing forwards actually.
I think it was, yeah.
He's one of the best ball playing forwards of all time. Of all time. He will go down. Like, honestly, I reckon he could be in my 17 of favourite players of all time.
I'm actually confident he's in your favourite 17. You love yourself.
I love Wader.
Graham.
I love him. I hope we see a big Wader year this year.
And I think the other thing that stands out for me with Wade Graham makes him so unique as a ball playing forward, a left foot kicking game.
Oh, it's the best.
As far as an edge forward goes, to have a left foot kicking game, and not just a guy that can kick off his left foot like Viliami kick out, for example, I don't know which foot he kicks off, but he can kick short. You can throw the ball to Wade Graham 30, 40, 50, 60 out, and he'll make a good kick down that
he'll force a dropout, 30 metres out.
He's a tremendous footballer, Wade Graham. His partner on the other edge, Britton Nakora. Great season last year. Probably didn't score as many tries as we all expected based on his first season when he was linking up with SJ, but I just think defensively in his workload, he went to another level. I thought he was great in the World Cup too. So Britton Nakora.
He exploded, Britton Nakora. Then he didn't like have a bad patch after that. It just like he just wasn't as good as like that explosion.
As a lot of young guys do.
Yeah, exactly. But I think last year was a big year for him because he was incredible.
Yeah, he was great, Britton Nakora. 13, Dale Finucane picks himself there. You've obviously got
the Warrior,
Cam McInnes in the side too, and I reckon there'll be times throughout the year where they will swap and change and whatnot. But Dale,
two of the toughest cunts ever.
Mate. When the way that we've got this team list written down is, Wade Graham, Dale, then the bench. The first name's Cam McInnes. Like, that's three guys that have been captains at NRL clubs over the last 3 years.
Wow.
It's unbelievable to have, and you can't even get them all in your starting team.
Incredible.
Very, very impressive. So they're well set up. Dale has been a fantastic signing from the Melbourne Storm. I know that Nicho Hynes, he got all the headlines and whatnot, but I think the impact that Dale would have had Monday to Friday would have been massive.
Yeah. 100%.
He's such a Craig Fitzgibbon guy.
Yeah. Like, imagine a young bloke in this team where Craig Fitzgibbon is your coach. And who was I talking to? Yeah, it was Luke Lewis. Because obviously Toby Rudolph said it on Fox a couple of months ago, but Luke Lewis reaffirmed the other day at the photo shoot. He's like, like he literally does jiu-jitsu or something on the day of just so he can walk into, this is Craig Fitzgibbon, so he can walk into his team and say, all right, I ripped in, now it's fucking your turn. So you got him, then you got like Wado, and Finucane and Cameron McInnes. Like, if you're a young guy at training, there's no mucking around there, I don't reckon.
Never forget, after they lost who'd they lose to? The Cowboys in Golden Point?
Yeah.
I had a guy send me a message, and it was the first thing I saw when I opened my phone. He goes, bad day to be jiu-jitsu tomorrow. Going to cop a pounding. So that's our starting 13. It's a good pack, good God. Let's move to our bench, another stacked bench here. 14, Cam McInnes. Probably not your traditional sort of 14, can play a middle role. Not really a guy that can cover your halves or whatever. Can play 9 if need be. But Cam McInnes, one of, if not the best defensive player in this competition.
Yeah, 100%. But he still comes on. You always notice when he comes on because he's not the quickest guy, but he's always, he's so fit. It always looks like he's got fresh legs when he comes on. He does have fresh legs when he comes on, but you can really notice it. And then he just rips in, makes a lot of tackles. He's one of those guys where just next time the Sharks play next year, when he comes on the field, just keep your eye on him and watch what he does in such a small amount of time. He's
one of those guys too. He will be supporting on every single play at top speed, getting himself back for the next one. He's one of those guys, and obviously not a super coach show that we're doing at the moment, but you watch him come on the field and you update your phone, Matty, and you see his score go up and up and up, and you just think, how the fuck is he possibly mounting this many runs and tackles? And then you watch him for a couple of minutes, he goes, it might be unders at the moment. He's incredible, Cam McInnes. Jersey 15, Wilton. Yep. Now, I said before that I think Wade Graham's days of playing 80 minutes are over, and part of that is Wade obviously aging and head knocks and everything, but the other thing is Wilton has been fucking tremendous. Yeah. Absolutely tremendous. I argue that if you would put them both into a vacuum with a blank resume over the last, since Teague Wilton's come on, I think he'd probably win the battle, to be honest with you. But Wade Graham, he's the older guy on the side. He's obviously got the leadership and everything, so you have to pick him to start.
Sorry, it's the perfect transitional
100%. It's perfect, yeah. And I think what we said before is going to be interesting, that, if Wade Graham plays this year, maybe next year, I think this year will probably be his last year, do they bring Wilton in there, or do they maybe move Talakai one spot in and find a spot for a Tracy and whatnot? It's going to be interesting to see which direction they go.
If Wade Graham sat out round one, at this point, I'd put Wilton in the back row.
Yep.
But who knows 12 months from now.
It'll be interesting. But and that's the beauty of, if Britton Nakora or Wade Graham go down, get injured, suspended, whatever it might be at any point, honestly, you don't lose anything.
No.
You really don't.
No.
I actually thought that, and I think it's something that we sleep on a little bit, when Sivatalakai, was playing against Manly and having these huge highlight games, it was Wilton inside him, just running a hard line. I think that at times last year, Sivatalakai and Wade, I think they found it hard to work out their combinations at different points. But I think with a preseason under their belt, that could be scary.
Just on Talakai, I've had a bit more to think about this. I reckon you're not going to move him to the back row unless you need to, because he's killing it so much. Whilst he's killing it, like, why would you change a good thing unless you absolutely need to? I think unless it's like getting not extremely necessary, but if it's necessary, then I'd move him. But I wouldn't just move him if we had a 50-50 option, put it that way.
Yeah, fair shout.
Not now, anyway.
Jersey 16, Royce the Choice, one of my favourites.
Good.
Roycey Hunt.
Love him.
I think people either forget or don't realise he made his debut for the Raiders in like 2018.
Yeah.
Played one game and then he just fell into rugby league wilderness for ages.
I remember watching him for Mounties heaps, and he was always the best.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. Yeah, so when he did get back into first grade, I was very excited about him. And I said then that I think he's got sort of Andrew Fafita potential, where he can be that sort of a forward that can bounce off 3 and 4 tackles, create an offload. I still don't think you've seen the best of Royce. I still think he's got a lot more to offer. And if Hamlin Uele is out for the first few weeks with this leg injury, I think Royce comes in to start. And I'm expecting very big things out of him. Mate, the last guy on the bench, and it's the only new player into this side, Oregon Kaufusi. I know that you're a big fan of him. I like him too. Great little signing.
Well, he's not little.
It's true. Facts.
He's big. He lot of raps coming through. He played Origin under 20s a couple of years ago. I just think Parramatta have, you can call them the best forward rotation in the comp, front row rotation in the comp almost, if not definitely. So there's just no room for him there. He can walk up, start a lot of teams. I reckon by the end of this year, he's going to be a gun, and I think it's perfect. Like, obviously, Fafita, club legend, Tolman, like 300 gamer, back into their careers last year. It's a perfect little changing of the guard.
Yeah.
Oregon Kaufusi will be a mainstay for the Sharks. As long as they can keep him, he will be a one to watch.
Yeah, very, very good signing. Great little. And, if that is their best 17, to think that you can inject Cam McInnes, Royce Hunt and Kaufusi.
Yep. That's premiership
frightening. It genuinely is.
You asked on Bloke yesterday, gun to head, Cowboys or Sharks. And I said Cowboys, probably because we were just talking about the Cowboys. But I've had to think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't actually have a concrete answer. If I had a gun to head, I'd probably still go Cowboys, like with no confidence. Like both Cowboys and Sharks, I think are premiership threats. Yeah. I just think maybe the Sharks on their day probably have a little bit extra. That's what I reckon, just like with, Nicho, Hynes and a couple of their backs. But this 4-pack is incredible. Cowboys 4-pack, probably a little more depth, but both so good. It's a really hard one.
Depth though.
They don't have bad depth. Yeah, they really don't. It's a really hard question. But
off the back of that question yesterday, someone messaged me this morning actually and said, what's the biggest turnover of all time from teams making top 8 to teams missing the next year? I had a look through. I ended up going back to, I think it was 2005. There was 4 teams that missed the 8. Crazy.
In 6?
No, sorry. So in 04, it's crazy. In 04, the top 4 was Roosters, Bulldogs, Penrith, Brisbane. Brisbane were the only team that made the top 8 the next year out of those 4.
Wow.
All 3 missed, and I think it was the Warriors that made, or the Raiders dropped out. They were 8th. But if you have a look at that 05 season, all those, like, you had the 02 grand finalists, Roosters, Warriors, they missed the finals in 05. The 03 finalists, Penrith Roosters, they missed the finals in 05. And the 04 grand finalists missed the...
Holy shit.
Yeah, so every team that had been in a grand final for the 3 years leading up to that missed the top 8 in 2005.
And I'm assuming, like, the Eels obviously made it, but the Knights came second last.
So, yes, so out of the 4 years, it was only one team.
One team.
Yeah, and the Roosters were in the one before that as well. So... which is crazy. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I look at this squad and I go, fuck, I don't know how they could miss the finals next year. I look at the Cowboys and go, I don't know how they could miss the finals. But as I said yesterday on Bloke, it does always worry me when you got teams that just go bang out of nowhere and jump up. But
no, I agree. It was a really good point. But yeah, this is a very well balanced team. So
for sure,
I think they'll make the top 4.
And when we say well balanced, we have a look at the guys that aren't in the side. Connor Tracy, he hasn't made the team. I honestly think it's fair to say that there's been times when Connor Tracy comes in and all of a sudden he's the best back on the field. He's a freak.
Sometimes he puts up these numbers that are just crazy. And you have a look at him. He doesn't look like a footy player.
I think I've told the story on Bloke before. I was at like a charity thing last year and he was standing about 5 metres away from me. And he is the most unassuming looking
it's crazy.
standard bloke. I genuinely, I looked at him and thought, oh, and I went, no, that can't be him. And then I saw him upload a video of it a few days later.
I've only met him a couple of times, like at a couple of launches and stuff, but everyone I speak to reckons he's just the sickest cunt.
Yeah.
He's like the best bloke in the world.
And people forget, like he had the worst injury. I think he did three ACLs in 4 years or something.
Yeah, he didn't play.
Control yourself on the bar, all right? Settle.
Yeah, I think I read an article. He I don't know, like he was with his girlfriend or something for 3 or something years, and in their 3rd or 4th year of their relationship, she watched him play footy for the first time.
Yeah, wow.
Like something crazy like that.
I'll never forget, I was at a South training session about 3 years ago. It was just at Redfern Oval. I was driving to uni, so I just pulled up to have a look. And Cody Walker was there. Adam Reynolds wasn't. And there was someone playing halfback that I hadn't seen before. And I couldn't believe how much control they had. They were the main voice the entire time. And I sat there and watched and just thought, who the fuck is that? It was Connor Tracy. And it looked no different to when Adam Reynolds was there. It just is, and that's where he's playing centre and all this shit. He could jump in at halfback, 5'8", fullback. You could chuck him at 9 and he would kill it as well.
Yeah.
Tremendous player, Connor Tracy. Great to have. You got Ikavalu there, who, obviously came from the Chooks. Whenever he came in, he was great.
Yeah.
Dykes back up for, your halves, fullback. Still got Trindle there as well, who was the starting halfback.
Fuck, they got a lot of depth.
Heaps of depth.
Newtown are going to be good this year.
Jaden Beryl, who was the Queensland Cup Player of the Year. And if you haven't seen Beryl play yet, trust me, an absolute gun. If Blake Brayley went down, Beryl is, I would say, almost as good as Blake. I know he hasn't played first grade, but I genuinely think he is as good as Blake Brayley. That's how much talent this guy's got. And you still got guys like Jack Williams, Hazelton.
Let's talk about Jack Williams for a sec. So he missed a lot of last year with injury, but he took a bit to get warmed up because I think he had a few errors in his game. But in 2021, he was close to their best forward. So he's... Like, obviously, we've all, it's easy to forget about someone who got injured when you talk about the best 17 for the next year. But, like, he's a real chance of breaking into this 17 because he was so good in 2021.
He's just a guy, he's just got to cut those errors.
Yeah.
He's one of these, I know you'll hate this. He's like George Spurgeon. Sometimes I watch him in the play of the ball and I just hold my breath for a second. And he plays, you go, oh, good. But he is a very talented guy. So, the Sharky side, mate, plenty of depth. You still got Harodi, who made his debut last year, I believe, or the year before. He's very talented. You've also got, and you would have seen him, you potentially would have seen him at the World Cup if you were up at 2 a.m. doing fuck all like me, playing for Greece. His name is Sateni. He plays on the wing. He scored their first ever try for Greece in the World Cup. He's come through the Shark system, has been a freak growing up the entire time. And it was funny. He's obviously the same age as my brother. They've always played against each other. And I remember all of his mates messaging me going, holy fuck, we didn't even know he was going to the World Cup. He wasn't named in the squad. He wasn't anything. Then the first game, he just appeared and scored the first try for Greece ever in a World Cup. So pretty cool little story.
Love that.
But yeah, this Sharky side, very, very talented. May lose Lockie Miller over the next few weeks. Knowing our luck, Matty, that'll drop about 8 seconds after we finish recording here.
Yep.
As always is the way. But Sharkies, can we see them... Are they a lock-in top 4 side for you?
100%. Oh, not a lock. Not
getting crowded.
They're a lock-in top 6. They should make. They are in my top 4. So my top 4 is. So I've written down, and it contradicts what I said about the Cowboys. My top 4 in no order is Panthers, Roosters, South, Sharks.
Okay.
And then 5 and 6, I've got Cowboys, Melbourne, and then my 7 to 12 gets a bit congested.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not set in stone. That's just like a little guide that I have. But for me, they should be making the top 4. I think we all have recency bias. Their finals last year were shocking.
Yep.
But think about it. If there wasn't a sin bin or something in that last Cowboys game and they ended up winning that game and making the prelim, they could win. They could beat the Eels.
100%.
They could have made a grand final.
Yes. They take on the Eels at home with a week off.
A Val Holmes field goal separated a disaster year for the Sharks and a great year for the Cowboys
100%.
in a lot of people's eyes. So I think, I reckon forget about that final series for the Sharks last year. They came into that South game and they were just cooked. They were mentally cooked. It was a big year. I don't think that is a problem at all. I think they should be as dominant as they were last year, make the top 4, and then hopefully they improve in the finals next year.
And as you said in that Cowboys game, that sin bin was so crucial at the back end of the game. Like, if that ball was just a couple of centimetres either way, it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Just Chad Townsend coming up with the perfect kick in the perfect moment at Shark Park to fucking sink their season. Poetry.
I was at Shark Park, and I got, as I've said a lot of times, two of my best mates are Sharks fans, and I copped a lift home with one of them, and like I don't think a word was said on the whole drive home.
How good.
And his girlfriend as well goes for para.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was
compounding.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Anything else to add on the Sharkies?
I like the Sharkies, mate. I really do. They're like, there's no second teams in sport, but I think besides South, I want the Warriors to go well the most this year. But I'll be really, really happy if the Sharkies go well this year.
I've got a little soft spot for the Sharkies too.
Yeah, I used to hate them so much. Like, I used to hate the Sharks only because of those two mates at school. Yeah. But I've grown up a little bit now.
Grown up a little bit. Of course you have. Rate your debut at the bar out of 10.
Not bad.
I think you've done well.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and have a look. But, mate, I don't like my posture.
I want to see if you can keep this energy up. I am very excited to see how you go.
Cheers, Guru.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back next week with more best 17s and more off-season episodes coming as well. You might have already seen our most recent off-season that dropped yesterday. And I think it's one of our favourite topics we've done so far, going through, and we're actually about to record it. So stay tuned for that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm traveling through time here. Thanks for joining us, guys, and talk to you soon.